You're listening to the Psychedelic Couch. Before we delve into today's episode, which includes conversation around psychedelics, we want to remind our listeners that the use of illicit drugs carries significant risks and legal consequences. Psychedelic substances, including but not limited to LSD, psilocybin, DMT, and MDMA, are classified as illegal in many countries, including here in the UK. The possession, distribution, and consumption of these substances can result in legal penalties, including fines and imprisonment. Furthermore, the use of psychedelics can have profound effects on one's mental and physical health. While some individuals report positive experiences, such as expanded consciousness and therapeutic benefits, others may experience negative effects, such as anxiety, paranoia, and psychosis. These substances can also interact unpredictably with medications and exacerbate underlying mental health conditions. They are also not suitable for anyone under the age of 25. It's essential to approach the topic of psychedelics with caution and responsibility. The views and experiences shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be interpreted as encouragement or advocacy for the use of illegal substances. If you or someone you know is struggling with substance abuse, we encourage you to seek support from qualified healthcare professionals or local addiction support services. With that said, let's proceed with today's episode, keeping in mind the importance of informed discussion and harm reduction. Welcome, Rafael. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you, Claire. Good to hear.
Great. I thought I'd start by introducing you. So, Rafael Costa is a psychoanalyst with a master's degree in clinical psychology. He conducts field research amongst the Amazonian indigenous people with a focus on the renaissance of indigenous healing practices. He's particularly interested in the intersection of indigenous cultural practices of Amazonian people and the decolonial approaches to mental health and human development. He is the founder of the Guardians of the Forest Institute, which acts to preserve cultural and biodiversity in the Amazon forest. He is also a founder of revered, which works directly with patients with mental health issues. He currently works in several plant medicine retreats in Brazil and abroad, screening, preparing clients, and integrating the work following plant medicine ceremonies. In essence, Costa's initiatives reflect a holistic approach to addressing interconnected issues of culture, biodiversity, and mental health, rooted in a deep perspective for indigenous knowledge and a commitment to fostering sustainable and equitable solutions. Welcome. Was that a good summary, Rafael?
Very good, Claire. Very good to be with you here today.
So maybe you could start by telling listeners exactly where you are.
Yeah, I'm here in Taipava, next to Rio de Janeiro, up in the mountains. We have a Ayahuasca center here. You know that here in Brazil now we have the freedom to practice this medicine. So we have here a center, and we are receiving people from everywhere in the world, and constantly doing ayahuasca retreats here.
And for those that don't know what ayahuasca is, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, ayahuasca is this brew, a combination of two plants, right? Used for indigenous people in the Amazonian basin. Traditional use for spiritual connections, for healing inside the indigenous tribes. Yes, and nowadays, right, a lot of research about these plants for several psychological issues. So is this, right? Is a indigenous plant, a plant medicine used traditionally for healing and spiritual connection.
And how do indigenous people use it? You know, historically and now, how is it used within that cultural setting?
At the beginning, right, small groups were using specifically for healing, and for some indigenous tribes here, like the understanding that ayahuasca is a kind of school, right, a teacher plant. So you drink this medicine to receive clarity for your life, for your path in life. It's really a school, right, where you can receive knowledge from this plant, right? It's a common and this understanding in others indigenous tribes here in Brazil that inside this medicine there is a being, a teacher plant with who you can communicate and receive instructions for your life, for your tribe, so to facilitate knowledge. So in a way, it's a kind of to go to a school where you learn directly from a plant about you, about your life, about the group, right?
And is there an initiation for people into the practice, or what age do young people start to explore?
Yeah, at the village, right? In a young age, around 15, they can start to drink. Sometimes, like before, and yes, like we can see that facilitate a lot, like even like child development, help them to be part of the community. So in a young age, they start to drink.
And what led you to this work, to combining your work as a therapist and clinical psychologist? What brought you to working directly with plant medicines?
Yeah, I started. I was like researching about ayahuasca already. I was drinking ayahuasca here in Brazil. We have different contexts, spiritual context that we are drinking ayahuasca here in Brazil. And then I started to do a master thesis. Then I went to Hunikuin people in Amazon. They belong to the Pano people, so Hunikuin, Yawanawa, Xandenawa. So when I went there, I could see like these beautiful people with a beautiful culture, very isolated from Western society, people without like a hospital, asylum, and they live like with they don't have like poverty. It's a beautiful culture with a very important message for humankind today. And I could see, right, how ayahuasca is part of their life and how now they can communicate their tradition to the world. So I was like fascinated by this culture. So since I came back from the village, I stayed there for 40 days researching. And then when I came back, we created an institute to work with them. And we started to develop these communications, those interchange with them. So nowadays we are organizing ceremonies here where we receive them. So like since I started with them, I also started to develop these psychological support, right? So doing interviews when people are coming to our center as this kind of preparation, right? And also after ceremonies like integration, what we believe is an important part of the whole process with ayahuasca. Not only to drink, but how you can return to real life and how to integrate in our daily lives. So that was how I started to enter this movement, right, and this connection with ayahuasca as well.
Thank you. And we'll talk a little bit more about the preparation and integration in a moment, but there was something that you said I want to pick up on. You said these beautiful people with this message for humanity. Tell us more about that.
Yes, those people, right? Yamanawa, Honey Queen, those are the people that we are working more. They live in this isolated area in Amazon, a very preserved area in Amazon with an ancient culture. Of course, they suffered a lot, like historically, like oppression from Western civilization. So they were almost losing their culture. And nowadays, like they perceive that they are part of an important environment and in world. So they understand that how their culture is important also to maintain the forest alive. So they have this message how we can live like integrated in nature, and like how we can maintain the forest alive, and how we can live in a culture that don't separate like individuals, that they don't have poverty, like in a kind of everyone is almost live like the same, right? So yes, I believe it's something like this kind of connection with nature and acting as a collective is something that our Western world, we somehow disconnected from nature and from the collective, and somehow they have this message for us. And I see like most of the Western world like looking for some kind of deep spiritual healing, because like Western world somehow disconnected from nature, from the others, from the collective. So I believe they can like somehow like teach and bring this message of reconnection with the essence and nature and the collective.
Yeah, so almost sort of a reminder about individualism and a need to move away from that position into deeper connection with each other, with our communities, with our environment.
Yeah. Is this right? It's a true people who live like connected, yes, with nature and ancient knowledge, that now we are living this kind of ontology turn, right, where we see that they have important knowledge and message for humankind nowadays, right? Especially about like reconnection.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, these people, they are living this like kind of what we are calling now like a renaissance. We know that it's a different reality here in Brazil. There are other tribes that they are living a lot of oppression. The Yanomamis case is like a reference. The miners, they were like dying. They kind of almost like a genocide there. But like Pano people, as Yawanao, Hunikuin people, they are living through, and especially through the medicine, through ayahuasca, through this whole movement of reconnection and interchange with Western world. They are living this renaissance where they are recovering their language, their mythology, right? So they are in this kind of awareness, understanding the role that they are playing nowadays in humanity. So they are traveling a lot. They are going to conference and like to bring this message and to let this message alive. Right? And of course, ayahuasca is playing a very important role, right? It's like a kind of, through ayahuasca, they are building this bridge between the two worlds, right? The forest and the big cities.
Yeah, that was my next question almost. Ayahuasca being the facilitator, the bridge between these two worlds.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it started the beginning of 2000, and they start to do like festivals and retreats there, and so it's kind of a big movement now in several tribes in Amazon, specifically in this area of Acre here in Brazil, and among Pano people, this linguistic branch, right? So all those people, they use ayahuasca and other plants as well as hape, right? So it somehow is calling like foreigners to the forest to learn with them. But naturally, what happens is when people, like when they're going there, at the same time create this kind of alliance, people like wanting to collaborate with the forest and with the people there.
Tell us a little bit about hape.
Yes, hape is a traditional plant medicine. It's a mixture of tobacco and other ashes. It's used for spiritual connection, and they use it like daily for spiritual connection, for protection, and it's part of ancestral understanding that those plants, they have like being sides, you know, that so they are alive, and you communicate with them, asking for protection, for good things for your family, right? And of course, also tobacco and hape is used during ayahuasca ceremonies to protect your spiritual work, but also to ground yourself, and helps a lot during ayahuasca ceremonies, and it is used traditionally inside ceremonies. This combination with ayahuasca and hape. Others ethnies, they use also not hape in this powdered tobacco that is in English would be snuff, right? But others ethnies use like tobacco in pipe to smoke, but mostly Pano people, they use hape, this tobacco snuff inside ceremonies for protection and grounding and to facilitate healing, right? But is part of this understanding that those plants have intelligence, and that is something amazing, and to understand, like when we are talking about plant medicine and we are talking about cultures, to understand that there is this kind of difference when we somehow we lost that connection with nature and reality, that alive spirit, and where we can receive from those plants like knowledge and facilitate psychological process. So is this kind of knowledge that indigenous people they maintain, and is very important when we are taking plant medicine, to have that understanding about like this simple principle that we can be in communication, and we can receive knowledge from those experiences, right? Those are experiences like that bring us knowledge and clarity.
Gosh, there's lots that you've said that I'm sitting with and thinking about. You mentioned the word ceremony. Is ayahuasca ever used in a one-to-one kind of context, or with shaman and one individual? Is it always in a group ceremony? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it can be one-to-one. What we know from those indigenous tribes is that they use the ancient usage work like in small groups, right? There are shamans that will work only with you in a more like a private setting, right? Some will only like stay in silence with you the whole night in a dark environment. Others will like sing Icaros as Shipibo from Peruvian traditions. But nowadays, what is happening in the tribes is that they are doing those festivals, and it started to be more a collective spiritual work, right? That they do it in big groups nowadays, and with innovation, right? Especially because nowadays they are using instruments, guitars, drums, and it is an innovation in their culture.
And for those who've not experienced sitting in ceremony, how does ayahuasca kind of therapeutic setting differ from conventional psychotherapy, traditional therapy?
Yes, Claire, my understanding about this is that we should always maintain the traditional usage of ayahuasca, right? So I don't use ayahuasca in a psychological setting, like in my office. I think it would be absurd because, you know, ayahuasca, you need like the culture, the music, like shamans, to connect with this spiritual realm and to call the force of this plant, right? So what I'm doing here is doing like the interviews to prepare for ceremonies, and see if there is any psychological concern before people start to drink ayahuasca, and after, like for integration and how people can integrate better their experience in like for their daily life.
Yeah, tell us more about what are some of the concerns, or where might ayahuasca not be suitable?
When people are taking some medications, especially antidepressants, and some psychological issues as psychosis and mania, or certain bipolar case. For some, bipolar case can help, but people like with psychosis or mania, it's not that they should not drink. We can like work with lower dose. It will depend the case, right? Sometimes even when people are taking or have in kind of psychosis, but they are using medication, we can use ayahuasca with lower dose, and it can be a safe experience, right? So it's something that we are doing here in our group. We can receive those people, but we would need to prepare differently, like for this work, right? So there are some concerns. What I can tell you that ayahuasca, it's a very, very safe plant medicine, right? So self-regulated for your body, like smooth change. And but there are only those concerns about like people using psychiatric medication, and especially psychosis is something that we need to take care before ceremonies and to prepare more for those situations.
So yeah, it's a case of really being transparent and then working with the client to find a way where maybe the medicine can be the strength can be changed, or some particular protocol can be used for that individual.
Yeah, exactly. This is the case, right? To receive and to think a ceremony specifically for each case, right? So that's why we are doing interviews here. People arrive with different life histories, different pathologies, right? Or psychological issues as depression or drug addictions. And so that's why we also do those interviews to prepare and to think case to case how we can do ceremonies in a safe environment and specifically for each case.
Yeah, what are some of the mental health conditions that people present with?
Yeah, usually depression, drug addictions. And one thing that I've seen a lot is also people arriving with traumatic situations, right? So in those cases, also what we see that people are receiving a lot of benefits from this plant, especially because they receive clarity about those process where they can see inside ayahuasca what happened, but like seeing, but also receiving a lot of affection, so they can revisit traumas, but at the same time, as ayahuasca also like open like your heart and you feel a lot of love inside, help people to integrate traumatic situations.
So almost in the heart opening and the expansion, allowing it allows the person to go to the trauma to then re-experience it in a way with an open heart that allows it to be integrated. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So also, right, this love that we feel inside the medicine is something that is very helpful for people that want to find the relief for their psychological symptoms. So this kind is a very specific kind of love, right? Because you feel that you are part of everything, right? This kind of feeling of unicity, and so this feeling helps a lot people with depression. So what I have seen here, like I remember one case, someone arrived. Oh man, it's the first time in my life that I'm feeling self-love, and that for me was quite remarkable. Like first time that someone felt self-love in her life. Years of depression, tried several medications, right? And with like 1 week of ceremony, people can like change their life really. Like if you listen their comments after a retreat is something amazing. Uh, and for me, right, Claire, as a psychologist, also like seeing this plant, I'm receiving people, I work with people. Sometimes, as a therapist, we need like years of work. And I've seen also people like doing therapy, using prescribed medication, and they never had any like real relief in their symptoms, right? And with ayahuasca, it's quite impressive how people can change. It's a so deep experience, and not only I'm not only talking about love, but how these plants can bring clarity and meaning for your life. So people sometimes will arrive in ceremonies, and we arrive here in our center, right, to do retreats, and they are like kind of lost. They don't know what they are doing in this life and their existence. And then they go to ayahuasca ceremony, and not just that they receive a lot of love and happiness and joy, but meaning for their life. What I'm gonna do now, and now they have clarity. So this is something very important after ceremony, that you see people know, oh, now I know where I came from. I know where I have to go, and but also with this feeling of kind of refreshment, like for life, right? They want to seek life again.
And people often report that they visit places that they hadn't expected to. As you were saying, you may spend years in therapy and not touch or not enter the trauma that you maybe weren't aware that was there. Or people often report going to places that they didn't expect, right? And in healing and in processing that, almost like the layers of an onion, going to a deeper part of their psyche, which they hadn't otherwise been able to reach. And as you describe, that real clarity in knowing what the future holds, or knowing what purpose is, or knowing, then this really embodied knowing that comes from their experience.
Yeah, what I see is people like having a lot of clarity, insights about their process, about their lives, about their past. But what is important also is how they can like return with those knowledge to their lives. And sometimes I believe it is very important to have someone who will facilitate this process and listen to this process. So if you are at the tribe, you're gonna have like the shaman there to listen to you. But so here, I believe it's good to have a psychologist or a facilitator, someone with experience inside this medicine realm, to listen to you, and with whom you trust, and you can share, and to give you maybe a deeper listening about this process, and bringing it also to language. It's somehow where and how we can integrate experience with meaning.
Yeah, tell us more about the importance for integration. You know, I'm thinking about people that I've heard of that have gone off and traveled to the Amazon and had a wonderful experience and then struggle coming back. It's almost the coming back into home, coming back home into real life, that then how do they integrate that in the reality of their everyday existence? Tell us more about the importance for the ongoing integration.
Yeah, this is I like to connect always with the tradition, right? Always with Unicuin tradition, the Yawanao tradition, Pano traditions. And in their understanding, right, ayahuasca, it's not an experience that is separate from life. Everything connects in an ayahuasca experience. So that's why also they do diets, they prepare like for ceremonies. So what you speak, right, what you are thinking, everything might appear, and you might experience inside ceremony. So preparation is very important. And also, as ayahuasca is this teacher plant, right, the idea is that you're gonna go to this spiritual realm, but you're gonna return with those knowledge to your life. So this idea that also you're gonna practice what you learn inside this spiritual realm. Of course, when we are returning to our Western civilized life in big cities, sometimes it's difficult. We are not at the forest living with a shaman. So during this time, right, I believe it's important to be with someone that could give you some time to listen to you, right? And I believe that there are sometimes difficult process that need to be listened by someone, right? Ayahuasca is a very can facilitate a lot psychological process, but it's fundamental also to have someone that can listen to you. In the forest would be the shaman, the pajer, right? But here in big cities, like have a facilitator, a psychologist, or a coach, right? It's very important, like to facilitate like how to integrate it and give meaning, and have like a space for someone to listen to you.
Or find kind of wider groups that you can be part of, so at least the narrative continues when you get home. Can you share any of the profound stories or witnesses that you've experienced, the healing potential?
Yeah, we have been like receiving a lot of people here with drug addiction and depression, right? And it's quite remarkable. This case, right, that I was mentioning to you, and like to feel like first time love in life, for me was quite remarkable, right? But I don't know. We have like several cases here. We just received someone here with fibromyalgia, like pain, and she tried several treatments, right? And after ayahuasca ceremonies and like other physiotherapists that work here, and she just sent a message for like this week that her pain is relief and she's much better, right? So what we see here is a kind of healing that is multidimensional, right? Not it's the work with ayahuasca, but the whole group, other therapists, and psychotherapy, like this whole process that help people to get some relief from their symptom, right?
Do you see ayahuasca, a place for ayahuasca, sitting comfortably alongside some of these other therapies?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Helps a lot, right? Helps a lot to have a group that is aligned and with integrity. You know, something that I would recommend people if you want to drink ayahuasca, it's to find somewhere to drink where you have like facilitators, shamans with integrity, and especially like connected with the ancient tradition that drinks ayahuasca like for millenniums, as Huniquin, Yawanawa, Shipibo, like in Colombia, there are different traditions, but like I would recommend people that going to drink ayahuasca to drink in groups that are serious, that have integrity, and connected with ancient traditions.
Mm. And you mentioned, I think when you were talking about the lady, that she came for a week. What length of time do you recommend for someone that's just wanting to start or explore?
No, I believe like to start one, two, and three ceremonies are very good, you know, because sometimes people will have like one ceremony and you know, like for the first time as something that you don't know yet, right? So it's common like to arrive in ceremonies feeling a lot of fear and to experience like altered state of conscious, and people are like, I don't know, it's quite common to listen to this, like fear of losing control. So that's why, right, I recommend people to have at least two ceremonies where they can see, like, okay, now I already know this medicine, a little bit the process, and now usually people will be more open to experience and to go more deep with ayahuasca, right? So it's good. Here, what we are doing is like a retreat for like three days ceremonies of with ayahuasca. It's called the Uni retreat, right? We are doing um, around 5 times per year, and usually like this a week retreat with 3 ayahuasca ceremonies, right? And of course, I believe only one for those who are going for the first time. You know, maybe it will be good to have at least two, so you after the second one, you're gonna be more open to it.
Mm, mm. And tell me more about some of the ethical considerations.
Yes, my ethical consideration like is to drink with traditional people who are drinking this medicine for centuries, and like leaders with integrity that you know, right, that have integrity, that you know a little bit about their history. I know that nowadays there are a lot of non-indigenous facilitators and using this medicine out of context, and it can be a very dangerous situation, right? If
Mm,
you're not
mm,
taking ayahuasca, as ayahuasca is a very powerful plant medicine, what I strongly recommend is to drink in a traditional setting with leaders with integrity, and that you know references. So this is something that I truly recommend people, if you are looking to drink ayahuasca, look for good centers and connected with traditional cultures.
Well, that's what I was thinking, that as someone, as a therapist, as a sex therapist that works a lot with sexual trauma, whilst I read that ayahuasca can be a fantastic medicine for working through sexual trauma. There's also a lot of unscrupulous people out there, and you read about sexual trauma actually happening in ceremony or at the hands of people that maybe don't have your best interest at heart. Maybe you could tell us more about that.
Yes, no, this is one. We know, right, Claire, that ayahuasca and this whole movement is growing a lot, right? So a lot of things are happening, and facilitators with that don't have integrity, and also, right, about sexuality. We here in our group we create a document, right, to inform people inside ceremonies. Also because sometimes you can be open, or right, and to take care. So we recommend people, right, where to drink with which group, and during ceremonies, right, what is the right way to act. It's a spiritual plant, right? And again, I always like to reconnect with the ancient traditions and their understanding, even about sexuality, right? Because for them, inside this usage of ayahuasca, our commitment, our love, right, is to connect with this spiritual realm and the entities that are inside this brew, right? It's a kind of relation of love with those beings, right? So that's why it's very important also, like if you're gonna use ayahuasca, to prepare your sexuality, and part of the indigenous sacred diets, right, involve like you should not eat sugar, salt, meat, but also like you should during diets, man, don't have like intimacy and sex relationship during this time. So it's very this understanding is very connected with ancient usage of ayahuasca, right? As a preparation. So we here in our group we communicate this. We have documents to tell people about this, right? About those concerns.
So in Brazil, where people can freely drink ayahuasca, is there a kind of open dialogue that takes place between shamans or ayahuasca retreats and other medical professionals? You know, is there a collaboration that takes place within people's health care?
Yes, yes. Maybe it would be good like to talk a little bit about the how ayahuasca was legalized here in Brazil, because it was so important, like this dialogue between traditional usage of ayahuasca at that time, right? The ayahuasca religions that we have here in Brazil, they start that movement to legalize ayahuasca. And it was very, very important, this dialogue between science and ayahuasca ancient traditions. So through these dialogues, we could legalize ayahuasca here in Brazil for religious purpose. So it was very important, right, to bring scientists, anthropologists, doctors, psychologists, sociologists. They went to Amazon to research ayahuasca traditions. They create a document afterwards, and through this process, we could legalize ayahuasca here for religious purpose. And I don't know, it starts in the 80s, and is like if we look like here in Brazil, it's safe. Like a lot of people are using now. We don't see like register of crimes. We know that alcohol is a big problem nowadays. Every time, like we see news of someone beating or went to jail because was completely drunk in streets, we don't know, or car accident, right? And here in Brazil, a lot of people are using it, different ayahuasca centers, and we know that it's safe. And I believe the way Brazil did like this legalization inside religion's purpose was very good and very important, right? Because maintain the principle, like to use this medicine for a spiritual purpose. And like to answer your question, right? Just to tell you how this dialogue between science and traditional use is important, right? Somehow to validate this plant and that is completely safe, right? For your health. Of course, if you use in a good context, in a good setting, but just sharing a little bit about this history of our legalization here in Brazil.
Yeah, to validate the plant and also the indigenous people that have used it for so long. So kind of upholding their wisdom.
Yeah. This is very important. Is my goal, right? To validate this knowledge and this traditional knowledge, those cultures, and the message that they have to spread.
What is your hope for the future with ayahuasca, with these plant medicines?
Yes, I believe my hope now would be like to, I don't know if the world or other countries or in Europe, Africa, US, Asia, would recognize as a plant that can help people, can help humanity. Like there are like several usage that we can believe and think about ayahuasca, for our present moment. So what is very, very important, and I hope we can achieve this, is for as something that happened in Brazil start to happen outside, and people recognize ayahuasca as a safe plant. It's not a drug. It's unbelievable, right, to think that in other countries, in Europe, the US, and Africa, ayahuasca is still like prohibited because it's a drug. It's unbelievable, to think that this plant, with this teacher plant with a lot of knowledge, is still prohibited. And now we know that sometimes there are indigenous traveling and they are facing a lot of trouble with justice outside. I have this hope that we're gonna change this understanding about ayahuasca in the global scale.
And tell me, what question have I not asked that you wished I'd asked?
Yes, Claire. No, I believe all is all there. My goal here, and as you just asked, right? My hope for the future is how we can facilitate more this connection with those people, and how we can bring and construct and build more this bridge between the forest and the big cities. We could talk more about there are like a lot of connections through ayahuasca, right? But one maybe that is to understand the importance of ayahuasca also for environmental cause, right? So the role that this medicine is also playing, right, and is something that maybe the psychedelic community should be more also connected with, right? Like seeing how important ayahuasca, not only for psychological help, but also how this plant is important, like for environmental cause, global warming, and how we can facilitate more this connection, this bridge between those people and this urgent cause of global warming.
By connecting us and bringing us back to our understanding that we are part of this planet, that we are part of our environment, and ultimately we all need the Amazon to survive, right?
That's it, no? And the importance of ayahuasca for environmental cause. And I was thinking here, it's the possibilities to use ayahuasca for humanity is immense, right? I was thinking even like for peace. I know that there are certain movements between Israel and Palestine, like to drink ayahuasca together, right?
There was some
And
research. There was some research being done, right, on that.
I heard something, yeah. But I've been there and I saw some groups like drinking ayahuasca together there. So there are a lot of potential, right, for this medicine in humanity nowadays to address a lot of our questions, but for what can I say, ignorance for old politicians that keep telling that ayahuasca it's a drug and should be prohibited, right? So, like as humanity, we need to change this conception and reinforce like this usage and how to communicate better and create this bridge between these people from the forest and the big cities.
Really beautifully said. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and all your knowledge.
Thank you. It was very good to participate.
I forgot to say, if people want to find out more about your work or want to follow you, where can they do that? Do you have a website or Instagram?
Yeah, I have my Instagram. I don't use much like social medias. You can send my WhatsApp or you can write my email.
Okay. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. And I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon, Claire.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the Psychedelic Couch. For more episodes, please follow me on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts, and find me on Instagram at the Psychedelic Couch and at Claire Faulkner Therapy, where I will be keeping you up to date on the latest episodes and information surrounding all things therapy, psychedelics, and expanded states.